Hello everybody and welcome to our next lesson, or I kind of want to call this lesson 4.5. We're still working with paragraphs but in a much more specific way. The last time that we had a lesson we talked very briefly about tab marks, and that's what is going to be our major focus today, as well as some sort of other more minor formatting things as well. So here we have a basic document. This could be, well, I want to call it sort of like not a company memo, but maybe an advertisement to consumers or to corporate customers. So let's begin by formatting the entire document. We'll flip over to our Design tab, and we're going to stick with the Office theme. And maybe I'll just Control H, should already be there, yeah. So we'll stick with the Office theme, and then we'll select black and white as our actual style. So this one for me, it's fifth from the left. Yours might be different, but if you hover over it, you'll get a tooltip that tells you which one it is. So there we go. We've selected our style. So let's format our title here as title. And as always, we can edit this item to make it our own. So we'll use the justify buttons, or the alignment buttons, which are here. So this is align left, align center, align right, and justify. And really what justify does, well, you can see exactly in the tooltip here, is it spreads your text evenly between the margins. We don't need to do that. So let's align this along the right hand side of the page. We will use the book style element to change Metamaterials Manitoba. So let's find book style. Well, that's book title. We don't want that. Or yeah, no, yes we do. So you can select our subtitle there, and we get book title. Now, so far this isn't really looking great, but at least we've got some basic style going on. Let's center it. Makes it look a little bit more title-y. And let's just make sure all of our tabs line up. So there are some alignment tabs already in the document, interestingly enough, but everything looks pretty square, so we'll just leave it as it is. I'd also like to bold Manitoba. Let's just say Manitobas are important, so you can, when you highlight, you can click bold. Oh, and it is already bold. That's perfect. I wonder if there's anything else we could use here that looks really good. Heading, emphasis, strong quote, intense reference. I'm going to unbold maybe the rest of this title. Because I think in Word 2013 this is not bolded. I think it's just slightly different. I could be wrong, but I feel like I did this in Word 2013 and this style was very slightly different. So in 2013 this is probably not bold, but this word Manitoba I do want to have bolded. So whether you have to change that or not, let's just do it that way. And then here's our company motto: stronger materials for a stronger economy. Let's use intense emphasis, I think. Intense, no, that's a different one. Reference, intense emphasis. So it's got that kind of nice italicized look to it, and we'll center that as well. Okay, now we're starting to look like this has actually got some purpose to it. And oh, looks like I forgot to add leadership into this document. So what we'll do then, just in your version of this document, create a title that says leadership, and we'll change that to heading 1. Probably won't leave a space between it. So leadership, let's do that with material offerings as well. Call it heading 1. Very good. So this introductory paragraph should probably get some sort of special emphasis because it's not like the regular information in this in the rest of this document. So if we take a look at some alignment options, we could center it. And we can align it right. which doesn't look too bad. It kind of gives it sort of something visually unique. We could justify it. And just so, as you can see, justifying versus aligning left. Justifying sort of evenly spaces out all the words so that it is as square as possible, but there's still one too many words to make it perfect. So justify is not really going to work for me just at the moment, but we could make this a little bit stand out maybe a little bit. So I'm going to grab the bottom. So you see that in the tab you have the indent, and then you have the hanger, but that little rectangle at the bottom here that allows us to drag everything. Let's drag that in over to the 1 inch mark, and we'll do the same. Drag this over 1 inch to 5.5. And that looks a little bit better. It's a little stands out in the middle of the page as sort of a unique standalone piece of information. Okay, so occasionally we have to create some lists, and this is an itemized list, or well, yeah, it's basically an itemized list. So we have a name, we have their position, and we have their phone number. Leaving it like this is not really going to work that well. Now you could try giving everything some space. I'm going to maybe tab these over a couple of times. But then when I go to try to line this one up below it, it's not bad. It's pretty close to being centered. But we don't want to line that one up first. We want to line up this one. So we're doing okay, but it's taken a little bit of effort. If we ended up having to change a spelling or remove a letter or something, it's going to kind of mess up all of our alignment. So instead, I'm just going to undo all of this. And we'll set our document up so that everything is kind of automatic. So tab marks is what you use to help with this. So we'll use our indent tabs to make this work. So everything in here we want to be affected by our tab marks. So the left tab, which is this little L shape, this one should already be selected. If it's not, you can just click it and it will change to a different marker. So we'll change to a left tab mark. We'll select everything that's in this paragraph. We should actually probably, yeah, including the titles, so that's good. And click anywhere on the ruler and drag. And as you can see, as soon as I start to drag, that L shape appears. Let's move that over to 2 inches. That'll be our first one. And as you can see, the paragraph is not affected at all because we haven't pressed tab anywhere in this paragraph. And let's create a right alignment tab. So as you remember, with a right alignment, all of our text will end up being to the left of our tab, or the tab will be to the right of our text. Okay, and we'll drop that at, let's say, 6 inches. Okay, so we want that to be sort of the end of our phone numbers, basically. And so we'll hit the roll tab. So we want to tab over the first item in the list, because otherwise we'll end up with extra separation. If we tab this guy over and then try to do this one, you can see that it creates a new line, so we don't want to do that. So we'll tab roll, and you can see roll aligns with that tab. And then phone number aligns with this tab. So that's all done. And then we'll repeat that for each piece of primary information in our document here. Okay, there we go. Everything's nicely aligned. Let's bold these as well, because they're sort of signifying that this is a sort of like a table. Actually, is kind of what it looks like. Now, if you look, so our tabs exist there. If I click into a different paragraph, our tabs disappear. Now, this is because I'm editing an existing part of the document, and because I highlighted this part of the document when I created the tabs, they only apply to that. If I had just clicked on this line and created the tabs would disappear as soon as I went to the next line. Now, if you create tabs and then, like, let's say I hit enter here, and I start essentially what works out to a new paragraph, the tabs still exist. So they are persistent in the sense that they'll work as long as you continue to type in the space after you've created them, but they're not persistent throughout the entire document unless you sort of highlight the entire document. We don't want to do that anyways. Um, so if you want to stop tabs from affecting further information, like I'll hit enter here so you can see. Um, if you want to get rid of this tab, and it won't affect the rest of this paragraph because the rest of the paragraph's not highlighted. It'll just start with the new line and everything beyond it. You just click the tab, drag it over, and it just disappears as soon as it hits the margin. Okay, we'll do that again. So as soon as it hits the margin, which is the grayed out area, and I let go, and it's gone. So you just drag it off the ruler and it will disappear. So I'll just reverse those changes. There we go. I'll leave another space behind it. Okay, so we've already changed metamaterial offerings to, or just material offerings rather, to heading 1, so it starts to match up. And we want to do the same thing with the information down here. We'll start off by bolding this top stuff because this is going to be our text, so I'm just hitting Control B, but you can always, when you've got information selected, you get this little context box that pops up, and you can also hit the B up here to make that work. So we'll create another left-hand alignment. We'll highlight all this. We're going to create another left-hand alignment tab. I'm just going to click through until I get left-hand alignment. Good. We'll place that at 2 inches again. And this time, let's create a center alignment tab. Actually, so let's just work from the titles for now, actually, because I want to do something different for the rest of these. So for this one, I want to create a center alignment tab specifically for the cost per kilo. So we'll click here. So this is the center alignment tab. This means that any text that gets tabbed over gets centered at the tab, as opposed to its left side or right side being aligned. So we'll drop one of those at 5. Why is that not working? It's kind of lagging out on me there, but that's okay. Alright, and let's tab everything over. So we'll move compressive strength over so it's lined up on the left, and cost per kilo we'll tab over so that it's aligned this way. I wonder, we might move this over to 5.5. Yeah, let's move this over to 5.5 just see how that looks. Kind of like that, a little bit better. We'll leave it there for now and see what happens. Now for this we have some prices, and if we oops, here we don't have. If we had our center alignment, or if we had our centering alignment tab here, the prices, because they have different lengths of decimals, would not line up completely properly. And I'll just show you what I mean here. I'm going to grab center alignment and move it over there to 5.5, and what I'm going to do is just move all of our costs over. So these already are starting to look like they're not aligned in any way that's particularly useful. So they're all falling into a column, but they're of different lengths. Now usually when you're trying to add up numbers or you're trying to compare numbers, it works best if you have their decimal places identical. So there is a special alignment tab just for number values, and particularly dollar values. If we click twice more, you see this one? It looks like the center alignment tab, but it's got a little dot on it. That is the decimal alignment tab. So I've gotten rid of my center alignment. Everything is selected here, and we're going to grab. Come on, you can do it. There we go. I'm going to grab one, and we're going to put it at 5.5. So the decimal sign will align with the very center of this title here. So let's go ahead and move our materials over. Obviously I've used some fake materials. This is an entirely fake document that I just sort of created. And we'll move over our dollar values, and you can immediately see that those are lining up across their decimal points Okay, making them very much easier to visually compare against each other. Okay, so now we're starting to find something that's a little bit more attractive overall. I do like this style, but it is a bit boring. It doesn't really have any color. Now, normally when a company issues a document to, say, their shareholders or their corporate clients, what they're going to do is have whatever their company colors are visible throughout the document. Um, and we can always edit. I mean, like the style that we've chosen here has no color in it, but that's okay because we can always override those basic features. So let's start off with Metamaterials Manitoba. You know what? I'm going to bold this one as well, just to make it stand out in the exact same way that the main title does. And I want this title to be underlined. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Okay, so let's take the first M and we're going to change its color. So this, when we highlight the M, the context box pops up again. So we'll work from that. What color do I want this first one? Let's go with a very light blue to give it a sort of watermark look to it. And the next one, we'll use very light orange. Yeah, light orange. And this one will be light green. Okay, so it has very much a watermark kind of look to it. The more I look at this, the more I think I would probably end up putting this in the header up here. But we're not talking about headers and footers just yet, so we'll leave it as sort of this watermark in the top right-hand corner of the document. Now, so the name's looking a lot better. This fits in. And then we should try and fit some of the color into the rest of this document. So let's take this first paragraph. We'll highlight the whole paragraph. So remember, I'm using the select space. You're probably noticing that quite a lot. Multi-clicking and stuff like that doesn't work as well as I'd like, so I usually end up just using the select space. I find it just a little bit more reliable. But anyways, let's format this paragraph. So we'll use the drop down for borders and shading. And I'd like to add a border and a shadow. So we'll do the box. We'll open that up to 3-point. I think just a basic box will be fine. Let's add a shadow as well, which should be 3-point. And the shading, I'm going to choose a color, the first color in our triple M. So we'll have some sort of continuity within the document. So we'll use that first blue and see how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. Stands out nicely. You can see the shadow underneath the box and highlights that particular item. This one, let's just, I don't want to do a border, but let's do a backfill on it. So we can use borders and shading again, but if we're just doing a backfill, we can also use this shading bucket. We'll pick the drop down here, and we'll go back. And so, as you remember, these are theme colors, so as long as we're using these colors, we'll have a fairly coherent look to our document. We'll do this one too. And our next color was it green? Yeah, it's green. Okay, so now there's some coherence in our document. Let's go into reading mode here. Okay, so our document looks quite a bit, well, reading mode doesn't really work for this at all, does it? That's fine. So a document has a nice coherent look to it. There's a continuity of colors across the title. So everything looks pretty good here. I'm still not a huge fan of this subtitle here. No. Subtle emphasis. I do kind of like that one, subtle reference. don't need it to be underlined. This paragraph. Well, let's leave that for now. I don't like the idea that it's bolded. So I'm going to unbold. No, I'll leave it bold. Unitalicized. Let's make this a bit of a gray. Like a dark gray. No bold. And let's make it all capitals. So we'll use our capitalize each word. No, we want uppercase. There. I think that's better. Let's stick with that. So I've gone and changed quite a whole bit. We started off with book title, but removed the bold and italicized and changed the colors a bit. All right. So I think that works pretty good. We've got a nice coherent document. Everything is nicely lined up. This is another way that you could use this is if you were, say, for example, you don't have to do this to your document because, well, it wouldn't make sense to do so, but if you had, like, say, a packing list, and you wanted to say, you know, tooth. So we say toothbrush, and then we created a left alignment tab, and we'll just do it over here. Come on, there we go. And we might say it's in our shaving kit. And let's say sleeping bag. So now we've got a list of individual items, and we've got space to leave a whole sentence telling us where our items are packed in. There's, you know, I'm sure you can think of, off the top of my head, that's the first thing that came to mind. I'm not really sure why, but I'm sure you can think of a million reasons why you might need to line up individual items like this. Now, alternatively, and we'll talk a little bit more about tables later, you can always insert a table, but tables are quite a bit more restrictive in their formatting in a lot of ways, just in terms of how their text fits in. I mean, we could align our table so it sort of more closely matches what's going on here. And let's see what happens if I copy and paste our data in. So we're getting a little bit something similar. Let's see if I want to get a little bit of spacing happening. I've already lost part of my table here. So as you can see, like you can work with this. It does kind of work along these lines, but we don't have centering along the decimal points. So if this was 50 for $563, we would get things out of place. And you can use alignment tabs within the tables. But when you're doing relatively simple pieces of information like this, like we can get rid of the borders if we want to and try to make it look, but it takes a lot more effort just to do some basic sorting of information into a table than it does to just simply add tab markers to keep things aligned. So it's up to you. And I mean, we will look more at tables in a later lesson, but again, for fairly simple stuff like this, I would probably just go and stay. Let's deal directly with tab alignment. Okay, so save this document however you like, but make sure you please attach it to your class OneNote in a new tab, or in a new page, I should say. Probably name that page Lesson 4.5, just so it makes it easier for me to find. As always, feel free to drop me a line if you have any questions about this lesson, and I hope everything was fairly straightforward. Thanks.